Welcome to our Essential Triathlon Cycling Guide. In this video, we're sharing essential cycle training hacks to boost your performance. You'll also get expert tips on choosing the perfect triathlon bike, strategies to avoid punctures, and far more. Whether you're gearing up for your first race or aiming to sharpen your cycling skills, these insider secrets will help you ride with confidence and efficiency. Let's dive in and improve your triathlon cycling today. In this video, I'm going to show you the best way to train for the bike section of an IRONMAN triathlon so that you can finish strong and run a great race. The bike section of an IRONMAN can be really tough if you're not prepared, but with the right preparation, you can make it through with ease. So stay tuned and I'll show you how it's done. The bike section of an IRONMAN triathlon is the longest part of the race in terms of distance and time. Not only do you have to contend with the fatigue of just having swum 2.4 miles, but you'll also be riding along knowing that you still have to run a 26.2 mile marathon. Have you done an Ironman before? How did you find the bike section and do you have any tips? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. If you're not properly prepared, the 112 mile bike leg can feel really tough. Here's how to train for it so that you can cross that finish line with a smile on your face. Slowly but surely, you'll need to build up your base mileage. And for most beginner triathletes, that means starting with a couple of steady 60-minute rides each week, and then gradually building them up over time. These base building rides can be done at an easy chatting pace, so don't feel you need to be pushing hard all the time. And over time, you'll need to build at least one of those 60-minute rides up, so that it gets to around 4 or 5 hours eventually. And that might take you 6 months or more to achieve, depending on your starting fitness. You don't want to jump into doing too much too soon though, because that can lead to burnout or injury. But there's no getting away from the fact that an Ironman ride is a long way, and by the time that the race day gets near, you'll need to be able to ride at least 100 miles non-stop in training without feeling too tired afterwards. So it's going to be tough, but it's also going to be good preparation for what's to come. And once you're able to do that, you can feel really confident about riding the 112 miles on race day. Having friends to train with will make the process a lot more enjoyable, and it'll also push you to ride further and faster than you would do on your own. Riding long distances can get lonely and boring, but when you're in a group, the time does fly. Over the last 20 years, I've had periods where I've trained in groups, and I've also had periods where I've trained alone. And I can tell you from experience that during the times when I've trained with others, I enjoyed the whole process a lot more, and I ended up getting fitter than when I trained solo. I know it's not always feasible, especially if you're a parent, but if you can make that happen, I strongly recommend it. You don't need the latest and greatest equipment to complete an Ironman bike leg, but having quality gear will certainly make the process easier and more fun. So do invest in a good road bike and make sure it's properly fitted to your body. Buy comfortable clothes that won't chafe during long rides, and stock up on essential items like tyre levers and CO2 cartridges so that you're prepared for anything on race day. When you're sat in one position for such a long time, that extra comfort does make a big difference to your mental state throughout the ride. I once interviewed a world-leading nutritionist for a triathlon magazine, and he told me that the bike leg of an Ironman triathlon needs to be like a buffet on wheels. Cycling burns around 500 calories per hour, so it's really important to fuel properly during your long rides if you want to maintain your energy levels. And by a long ride, I mean anything longer than about 90 minutes. There's nothing clever about feeling completely wasted after a bike ride, and one way to avoid this is by consuming around 200 to 300 calories per hour by snacking on things like bananas, oat bars, energy gels and energy drinks. Practice using the foods and drinks that you're intending to use on race day so that your gut gets used to them. And it's also a good idea to have a balanced meal soon after your long rides to help you recover faster. Doing this will also stop you from feeling like you need to eat unhealthy snacks all day long as well. So if you haven't already, you should seriously consider investing in some kind of indoor bike trainer, whether that's a static bike like a Peloton or attaching your own bike to a smart trainer. That way you can still ride even when you're short on time or if the weather is bad. And for extra motivation, there are some great cycling apps like Zwift and Full Gas, for example, and they allow you to train in a virtual world with cyclists from all over the world. They have online races, workouts, group rides and far more, and they're a real motivation booster if you're a busy Ironman triathlete. If you're following one of my training plans, you can even sync my workouts with apps such as Zwift and Full Gas, and that enables you to follow each session with on-screen prompts within the app itself. This is something I do myself, and it's a real game changer when it comes to motivation. I find it way easier to get through a tough interval session. Ironman training on the bike can be tough, but it doesn't have to be all work and no play. Ride with friends, stop at coffee shops and enjoy riding varied routes. You can even do some mountain bike or gravel bike rides if you want to change. There's no rule that says you have to ride a road bike all the time. Either way, just make sure you enjoy the process and give yourself some credit for taking on such a huge challenge. If you're tired of struggling to shave seconds off your triathlon bike splits, then stick around because I have a secret that could help you improve your times and reach new personal bests. And as a competitive triathlete, I've always looked for ways to shave seconds off my bike splits. In this video, I want to reveal one key element that can make a significant difference, and that's crank length. Not only can it lead to faster bike splits, but it can also help you run faster off the bike. So stay tuned and I'll show you how. Now, before I start, I just wanted to let you know that 76% of you who watch this channel frequently do not subscribe. So if you've ever enjoyed these videos, please can you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It helps this channel more than you know. And the bigger the channel grows, the better the videos we can produce for you. Right, let's talk about your cranks and how they can make a difference to your performances. The crankset is the part of your bike that converts the downward movement of your legs into the rotational motion that drives your chain and in turn your rear wheel. When you buy a new bike, the length of these crank arms comes as standard based on the size of bike you choose. So for small bikes, the length of the crank arms is usually 170 millimeters. And if you buy a big bike, it's usually 175 millimeters. And this is a medium bike, so it's 172.5 millimeters. It's been like this for decades, and if you want to know the length of your crank arms, you can usually find it stamped on the inside by the pedal hole here. In recent years, a gradual revolution has taken place as bike fitting experts have started recommending the use of shorter cranks for many riders. Some advantages of shorter cranks have long been known. For one, they don't require you to lift your knees as high while you pedal, which can reduce the peak load on your knee, reducing the risk of injury. Similarly, shorter cranks open up the angle at the hip, which can allow you to get into a deeper tuck for the same hip angle, or a more comfortable pedaling action if you have any hip problems. However, it has long been believed that there was a trade-off involved, that shorter cranks resulted in reduced leverage and therefore decreased power. Well, it turns out that that's not the case. Research on crank length and power output has shown that in most scenarios, shorter cranks don't result in less power output. And the only situation where longer cranks are better is at the start of a sprint race on the track, where you need that extra leverage to get going. And that's not something that triathletes really need to worry about. This research has led many pro triathletes and cyclists to switch over to shorter cranks, including Bradley Wiggins at the Rio Olympics, for whom the change reportedly led to a significantly lower drag coefficient for no loss of power. Riding with shorter cranks can help you adopt a more aerodynamic position and hold it for longer. That's because shorter crank arms provide more space between your knees and your chest as you pedal, so you can get into a more aerodynamic riding position without feeling like your knees are hitting your chest. If you decide to try shorter cranks, you'll need to raise your saddle too. So if you swap from, say, 175mm cranks to 165mm cranks, you will need to increase your saddle height by that same difference, which is 10mm. Doing that alone can result in a more aerodynamic riding position as your body rotates forward into more of a tuck position. Unless you prefer to raise your handlebars at the same time, of course. Shorter cranks can also help you run better off the bike because you'll feel less stiff around the hips as you transition from cycling to running, which in turn helps you achieve a normal running gait quicker with less fatigue. They can even help make your saddle feel more comfortable. In his book Bike Fit, author Phil Burt says, "With shorter cranks, peaks in saddle pressure are reduced and many riders experience a significant reduction in saddle discomfort." Switching to shorter cranks means you'll need to pedal slightly faster to produce the same power. If you're someone who has difficulty raising your cadence from say 85 to 90, shorter cranks might not be for you. Of course, that difference can also be offset by riding in bigger gears if you have them. If you're already happy with your bike position and your knees aren't anywhere near to hitting your chest, there's probably no benefit in you changing to shorter cranks. And if you do switch to shorter cranks, there's also an adaptation phase while you get used to the new position. I've done it myself and it does feel weird at first, but after a few rides, I didn't really notice the difference. Changing your crank set can also be expensive and time consuming. A new set of these costs around $300 or more, and then you'll need to either spend time fitting them or paying someone else to do it for you. If you change to shorter cranks on your triathlon bike, you might also feel like you need to change the cranks on any other bikes you own too, for consistency. And if you have several bikes, that can get very expensive. As I mentioned earlier, the standard crank lengths that come with new bikes are between 170 and 175 millimeters. If you're thinking of making the leap to shorter cranks, bike fitter Phil Burt recommends trying 165mm cranks or 160mm cranks for those with shorter legs. Most manufacturers offer 165mm cranks, but not many make shorter ones. Shimano cranks go down to 160mm for their Dura Ace and Ultegra 12-speed cranks, and Shimano 105 12-speed and an 11-speed if you can find them. SRAM offers just one 160mm road crank set in 12-speed rival, and cranks made by Rotor come in lengths as low as 150mm, but they're expensive. While if you want something less expensive, FSA Gossamer cranks go down to 145mm, again if you have access to them. Riding with shorter cranks can provide several advantages, from improving aerodynamics and transitioning into running more efficiently to making your saddle more comfortable. However, it's important to keep in mind the potential disadvantages as well, such as the expense and hassle. Ultimately, whether or not you should switch to shorter cranks depends on your personal goals and preferences. Now, I have a quick question for you. Are you tired of expensive coaching solutions for your triathlon and cycling training? Well, my coaching company, MyProCoach, offers a revolutionary approach to training with rapid coach support at a fraction of the cost of other solutions. But don't just take my word for it. We have over 750 satisfied athletes who've scored us 4.9 out of 5 stars in reviews. Our expert coaches are here for you every step of the way, offering training plans and guidance tailored to your individual needs and goals. With our affordable prices, you can finally achieve the results you want without breaking the bank. Simply click the link on screen or in the description to get started now. As a triathlete, you know the importance of having the right tyres on your bike, but have you ever wondered which is better, tube or tubeless tyres? Well, I've ridden and raced extensively with both kinds, and in this video I'll tell you which is best. Which type of tyre is best for triathlons, tubeless or tubed? And if you enjoy this video, please do me a huge favour and hit the subscribe button. It makes more difference than you know. The more subscribers we have, the better the videos we can provide for you. Right, let's talk tyres. Tubeless road tyres first came out in around 2005 and have slowly grown in popularity since then. And as the name suggests, tubeless tyres don't require inner tubes. They simply fit directly onto a set of tubeless ready wheels in such a way that they form a seal with the inside of the wheel rim so that the air doesn't leak out. And to help keep that seal airtight, liquid sealant similar to this must be squirted into the tyre valve before you pump them up. Then once the wheel starts spinning, the sealant lines the inside of the tyre and plugs any potential gaps. The sealant also does a great job of fixing small punctures while you're riding along. So where previously your tyre would deflate and you'd need to fix it on the roadside, with tubeless tyres you can keep riding, often unaware that a puncture has happened and has self-sealed. The sealant can even fix bigger punctures up to 6mm, although you may lose some air by the time it works. You'll often hear the air seeping out of the hole in your tyre, while the sealant gradually plugs that hole. And that's not ideal of course, but it might be enough to get you home or to the end of a race without you needing to stop. Not all punctures get fixed by the sealant of course, but most of them do, and that makes life a lot easier. Before tubeless tyres on road bikes became a thing, most people used clincher tyres with inner tubes like this. In fact, they still do. I bet most of you watching this have clincher tyres with inner tubes on at least one of your bikes. You can also get tubular tyres or tubs, which are like a tyre and an inner tube combined into one that you glue or tape to your wheel rims. And I used to use these because I believed they were lighter and had less rolling resistance than clincher tyres. But I've since got rid of them, and these days I use tubeless tyres, and I certainly wouldn't go back. In this video I'll explain the pros and cons and what you'll need to do if you do decide to make that switch over to tubeless. Let's talk about the advantages of tubeless tyres first, and to my mind there are three big ones. 1. Fewer punctures. As I've already mentioned, the biggest advantage of tubeless tyres is that you get fewer punctures. Not only does the sealant in your tyres fix small holes as you ride, but tubeless tyres don't suffer from pinch flats in the way that inner tubes do. Pinch flats, or snake bites as they're sometimes known, occur when your inner tube gets punctured on both sides by the edges of your wheel rim. And that's usually as a result of hitting a curb or a hole or a rock. So that's a kind of puncture that you'll probably never experience again, which really reduces your chances of getting one at all. It all means you'll spend far less time on the roadside messing around with your inner tubes or trying to find a flint or a thorn that caused the puncture in the first place. For me, that peace of mind has been a real game changer, especially in triathlons where I now feel far less anxious about mid-race punctures. It also means you don't have to carry as much spare stuff, such as inner tubes or spare tubular tyres. These days in a race I just carry a mini pump or a CO2 quick fill or two and a Stan's tubeless repair dart tool. And if I get a puncture that doesn't self-seal, I use the Stan's tool to plug the hole before inflating the tyre again. However, if you want to cover all eventualities, you can still carry a spare inner tube too, because an inner tube will fit into a tubeless ready tyre when all else fails. 2. Less rolling resistance. So what else is good about tubeless tyres? Well, they have lower rolling resistance than clincher tyres, which means that typically you would need to pedal fractionally harder to overcome the resistance of a clincher tyre compared to a tubular tyre. We're only talking about 2 or 3 watts difference here, but it's another tick in the box with tubeless. 3. Increased comfort. You probably heard me referring to pinch flats earlier and how you don't get them with tubeless tyres. Well, the other advantage of that is that it means you can use lower tyre pressures without increasing your puncture risk. This results in a smoother and potentially faster ride because your tyres can deflect and smooth out all the imperfections on the road. I have a set of Zip 404 Firecrest wheels on my triathlon bike, and according to the tyre pressure calculator on the Zip website, the optimal pressure is only 65 psi. Compare that to when I used to ride tubular tyres and I'd be pumping those up to around 100 psi. With tubeless, you also have the option to fit wider tyres like these, which are a 32, because they accommodate lower pressures. And again, that will just smooth out the vibrations of the road surface and make your ride faster and more comfortable. So tubeless tyres are great, but there are some downsides worth mentioning. One is that they go flat if left. So if you don't ride your bike regularly, it's likely that your tubeless tyres will have gone flat in between rides. That's because when the wheels are stationary, the sealant drips down to the bottom of the tyre, which means it no longer provides a seal between the tyre and the rim, and the air gradually seeps out. It's not a problem, you just spin the wheels to get the sealant to coat them again, and then you pump them up again. But it can be annoying at times, especially if you're in a rush and you want to get out on your bike and you go to it and the tyres have gone down. But for me, the biggest disadvantage of tubeless tyres is that the valves eventually get gummed up by the sealant. So you can see the valve here. The sealant is like a liquid, and when it comes into contact with air, it thickens and goes rubbery. Inevitably, some of it will seep into these valves, and come into contact with the outside air or from your pump. And as a result, sometimes I have difficulty undoing the silver screw on my Presta valves. I've broken one or two in the process and had to get 2 others replaced eventually. I've been told that some sealants are better than others for gumming up the valves, so maybe I've just been using the wrong ones, but either way, it has been irritating. Aside from those 2 minor gripes, I can't think of any significant downsides, aside from perhaps the hassle and expense of switching over from clincher tyres to tubeless, and the learning curve as you deal with your first tubeless puncture. And I'll touch upon that in this next section. The easiest way to switch is to either buy a bike or set of wheels that are tubeless ready, and it should say that on the wheel rims. You'll also need a set of tubeless ready tyres, and again it'll say so on the tyre walls. And then ask your local bike shop to fit your tyres as tubeless rather than with an inner tube. With tubeless tyres, the valves come separately, and the shop should install some of those and add the sealant for you so that you don't have to get your hands messy. If you'd rather fit your own, you can buy tubeless ready wheel kits, which involve valves, rim tape and sealant. And from what I understand, and I'm no expert on this, you can even fit tubeless ready tyres onto normal wheels, although the fit is supposed to be tighter and therefore trickier. But please do your own research on this first, because I've never tried it myself. With fewer punctures and potential increases in comfort and speed, tubeless tyres are a great option for triathletes, especially if you don't mind the minor downsides, which are tyres that deflate when idle and gummed up valves. If you do decide to make the switch, just make sure you know what to do in the event of a puncture. And please let me know in the comments what kind of tyres you use and why. Is your triathlon bike helmet slowing you down or propelling you to victory? Uncover the truth as we put Aero helmets and regular helmets head to head in the quest for triathlon supremacy. Seconds and minutes count at every level in a triathlon or cycling event, and your helmet is one of the easiest ways to save yourself valuable time, with data suggesting that an Aero helmet could save you over 4 minutes in a long-distance triathlon bike leg. Sadly, picking the right helmet isn't as simple as choosing an Aero one, as some of the most Aero-looking helmets could actually make you slower. So let's slice through the world of cycling helmets and look at the science, myths and real-world impact of what you put on your head and how it affects you when you race against the clock. There are 2 clear types of Aero helmets. There's the semi-Aero type, like this, which is worn by professional cyclists during road races and also triathletes often when it's a hot day. Or you get the slightly more alien-looking ones worn by triathletes and cyclists doing a time trial. These sleek designs are about looking fast and reducing drag, so you can slice through the air and save yourself some valuable energy. And these days, every helmet has undergone countless hours in a wind tunnel, all in the pursuit of helping athletes like us maintain higher speeds with less effort. These kinds of helmets are your regular road helmets, and they have more vents to increase the cooling effect on your head and are generally much lighter than their Aero siblings. As a result, they really excel in hot conditions. They're also ideal for long days in the saddle or your day-to-day training rides, where comfort is higher on your priority list compared to all-out speed. That doesn't mean that these kinds of helmets are bad or slow, they just have different benefits, like picking the right type of running shoes for the right conditions. Knowing which helmet to grab based on the course and conditions is also a big consideration, and something I'll cover later in this video. An Aero helmet like this can boost your speed for free, yet the fastest helmet for sale might not be the quickest for you. Your riding position plays a crucial role in aerodynamics. If you're always looking up, left, right or down at your bike computer, your smooth, long aerodynamic helmet can actually add more drag and valuable seconds to your time. The most aerodynamic helmet is the one that best fits your individual body size, shape and riding position. And the only way to find this out is to test several helmets in a wind tunnel. Personally, I wouldn't want to spend that much money, so instead I went to a bike fitter who specialised in aerodynamics. We had no real data to go on, but after trying a few different helmets, we chose the one that visually fitted my body shape and looked the most aero, which was this one. The next consideration is the course profile of your target race. If you're going to be out of your aero riding position and spending long periods of your ride climbing, then your moving speed will be slower, and this will reduce the benefit of the aero helmet. Plus, you'll spend less time in the riding position that an aero helmet is designed for. The weather conditions should also play a part in your helmet decision, because aero helmets offer less ventilation. If you're racing or training in hot conditions, what you save in being aero can be offset by you sweating a lot more and becoming dehydrated. That might also mean you need to carry more fluids and electrolytes to counteract this. At the opposite end of the scale, if the event or training session is particularly cold, many athletes would choose a more aero helmet because the lack of vents can reduce the amount of cold air that's going over their heads. Holding an aero position for long periods of time can be a painful experience for your neck and shoulders, which is why it's well worth practicing riding in your race position as much as possible before race day. Completing some technique sessions on the bike will help you hold a more aero position, making the benefit of your sleek helmet even greater. Strength and conditioning workouts can also help here, such as the ones I include in my triathlon, duathlon and cycling plans, which you can follow from as little as $3 per week with coach support. So just click on the link in the video description to learn more. The best aero and breathable helmets often command a premium, but that doesn't mean you need to spend a fortune. There are often savings to be found on previous year's models, which in many cases will be just as fast as the latest one. Just make sure you're only shopping for a brand new helmet, because that's the only way to be sure it's never been damaged. Safety should always be the #1 priority, and all helmets should meet rigorous safety standards before being sold to you. Despite being marked as safe, your helmet must also fit you really well. A well-fitting helmet should fit snugly without tilting or rocking. It's also worth making sure your helmet incorporates the latest safety technology for optimal protection, such as MIPS, which stands for Multi-Directional Impact Protection System, and spherical technology, which reduce rotational forces on the brain during impact and improve your safety. I was going to add an 8th section about aero helmets making you look cool, but then I saw this one, which was worn by the Visma Lisa Bike Pro team, and that changed my mind. That said, if someone told me it would make me faster, I'd still wear it, even if I did resemble an Imperial Stormtrooper from Star Wars. Hopefully you're now in a position to know that the best helmet is one that meets your specific needs by balancing speed, comfort, safety and budget. The choice ultimately comes down to personal preference. If you enjoy looking at triathlon equipment, you'll love the video on screen, which looks at the must-have swim equipment you need in your kit bag. You should also check out our playlist about preparing for a half-distance triathlon. And don't forget to drop a comment below if you have any questions about helmets, and please like and subscribe for more triathlon tips and guides. Why do triathlon bikes look so different from road bikes? And is it possible to have one bike to rule them all? Watch this video right to the end, because I'll be showing you why these bikes are so different and what that means for your speed and comfort. If you're shopping for the fastest bike in the world, it's likely to look something like this triathlon bike. The spaceship-like designs and lack of rules dictating what they should look like means you can witness some incredible bike designs. The only problem is that what makes a fast bike might not make it comfortable. Extreme riding positions can be tiring to maintain, as well as making it harder to see where you're going. So let's compare triathlon bikes and road bikes to see which will suit your cycling style, whether that's all-out speed or comfort for the long haul. Triathlon bikes can also be called time trial bikes. These machines are designed to be aerodynamic and fast in a straight line. They feature a steeper seat tube angle, which is this tube here, and that's usually around 78 degrees on this kind of bike, whereas with a road bike it's typically around 72 degrees, which is a lot more laid back. This slight tweak moves you further forwards over the pedals, and depending on your bike fit can reduce your drag and help make you much more efficient, potentially saving minutes over your ride. There's also some evidence that a triathlon setup can help save your legs for the running section, although it's highly likely that no matter what bike you ride, your legs will still feel tired by the time you hit T2. Other typical features of a triathlon bike are the aerodynamically shaped tubes like this and the deep section carbon wheels like these, both of which are designed to reduce aerodynamic drag. This bike also comes with aerodynamic storage solutions, such as an internal drinks bladder here, which has a straw that I haven't put in, a gel bottle down here, which you can take out and drink gels from, and there's also this bit which you can take the lid off that and store your tools in, or a mobile phone. The other notable feature of triathlon bikes is the Aero bar here, and these tri-bar extensions. Not only are they more aerodynamic than normal cycling handlebars, but they allow you to get into a riding position that minimises your frontal area and hence your drag. This bike also has bar end gear shifters so that you can change gears while maintaining your aero position. Although I must say that sometimes when I'm riding this bike on the tri-bars, I do feel a long way away from the brakes, which are here. Road bikes, on the other hand, come in a few different personalities. You get aero road bikes, lightweight road bikes which are built for climbing mountains, and all-rounder road bikes like this one. Your choice all depends on what you want to use it for. However, all of these bikes are more comfortable, versatile and handle better than the triathlon bike we looked at previously. They're great for group rides, hill climbing and long rides. I like to think of a road bike as being a bit like a fast family car, whereas triathlon bikes are like Formula 1 racing cars, great for going fast in a race but not good for much else. Despite being slower on paper, a road bike can be made a bit faster by adding tri-bars onto your existing handlebars here. You won't get all the triathlon integrations and you won't be quite as aero, but a few small tweaks can create a jack-of-all-trades bike that you can use in any situation. It's also a good way to test riding a triathlon bike before investing thousands in one. But before you put tri-bars, or you think about putting tri-bars on your bike, just make sure the handlebars are going to take them, because some bars like these are flat and you'll struggle to find tri-bars that will fit on them. Regardless of the bike you choose, having a bike fit will help improve your comfort in the saddle and make you more efficient whilst reducing your risk of injury. You also get some bike fitters with specialist aerodynamic experience who can help make you more slippery through the air and save you a lot of energy. There's no one size fits all with a bike fit. You and I will be built differently. Some people can barely touch their toes, which makes an aero position a tough challenge and requires plenty of strength and flexibility work in the gym. I've recently had a bike fit on both my triathlon bike and this road bike, and they both had a very different goal in mind. For the triathlon bike, I wanted to be as aerodynamic as possible while remaining comfortable for a middle distance triathlon. Whereas for my road bike, my goal is comfort for long rides, and I'm not so worried about being particularly fast or aerodynamic, except for not wanting to get dropped by the people I ride with. Clearly, these different types of bikes have different skill sets. Triathlon bikes are faster against the clock on a smooth and flat course, especially if you're used to riding one. They are also faster on lumpy courses, but you should practice this type of riding to make sure it's the right choice for you. The road bike, on the other hand, is the more obvious choice for group rides, grand fondos, and events where comfort is the most important thing. They can also be faster than triathlon bikes on very mountainous courses because they're usually lighter. And as I mentioned earlier, a road bike can also be adjusted using tri-bars if you want something with a bit more versatility. Deciding on the right kind of bike depends on your competitive goal, the event you're doing, and of course your budget. If you're focusing on triathlon and time trials, then a sleek triathlon bike is possibly a wise choice. But if you prefer a bike that you could use every day for triathlons, social rides, cycling holidays in the mountains, and all kinds of general riding, then a road bike is likely the one for you. Both triathlon bikes and road bikes have their place, but it's important to understand what your needs are before rushing out and buying the fastest bike. If you found this video helpful, then watch our video on screen, which can make any bike that little bit faster with no more effort. Plus, check out our Beginner's Guide to Triathlon playlist if you're relatively new to the sport.